and I'll ask Tiffany this first. How did you deal with the divorce, the process, and all of that stuff as an active leader, as a forefront figure? Were you embarrassed? Did the church even support you throughout this process?
I wasn't embarrassed because I had already, there's something about me, I already counted the cost before, so it didn't matter to me what anybody really said. I was doing what I knew needed to be done at that time. It was the best decision for myself. Still, I was considering myself and not the marriage. So I wasn't embarrassed. I had my support system. I had my friends. I only talked to people that either knew both of us and loved him as much as they loved me. If they didn't, I didn't talk to them.
You gotta say that one more time.
I only talked to people that loved the both of us. They loved me as much as they loved
So they
him.
had the best interest of you and him.
Right. I did not, and I made one mistake, and I told one person something and it got back, and I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like that was the end of that. And they mistermed what I said, but it had already done the damage.
They added pepper and salt.
So I left that alone. So I did not return back to church.
Wow.
I stayed away from church for a very long time. I did not want to go. I did not want to see the people. I did not want to have to explain why I had moved back here. I just didn't.
So that is kind of a type of embarrassment because you were in First Lady role, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. It is what it is because once you are in the forefront role, they're looking to you. And when they look to you, when anyone looks to you, that's just what it is.
The church just thought I just maybe moved back here.
Wow.
So it was a while before it was told to them. And we had an agreement that we talked to each other about if we're going to speak about it, because it's not just my story, it's his story too.
It is very important that people understand. Even in my book, I didn't tell my ex-wife's story. That's not my story to tell. Because her experience may not be the same as mine to her, because she interpreted it based on her behavioral cognitive theory. What her environment has allowed her to comprehend at that magnitude. I can't tell her story, and I never put her in a position to look back. That's not what you're supposed to do, especially as a man.
As a man of faith.
As a man of faith. As a man and as a man of faith. Especially as a man of faith. A man in general, your job and your objective in life is not to make a woman look bad. You understand? Especially a woman who holds your children. And you got to remember, things stay in the internet, studies say, for 50 to 55 years. And that's minus the screenshots. So, or the recording, because now you can record somebody, screen record. Jamaris, please tell me, because I know with the failed marriage, considering you're an active leader, you're a praise and worship leader, you've been in leadership at many different roles. Because us as pastor kids, we play different roles. We're in administration, we're in the choir. Sometimes we need to be an usher. I was never a good usher.
I was never a good usher.
Because I'll fight. But that's a, listen.
The ushers had to stand up too long.
I wish you all were in the studio to feel this. This is an emotional feeling. Everybody has lived it in here. But Jamaris, please tell me, being who you are, after having a failed marriage, were you embarrassed with the aftermath? Were you afraid of the "I told you so"? And or did you receive church support?
I did. I wasn't embarrassed. Initially, I think I was more hurt than anything because of the way it was presented. So when I got married, I moved to Atlanta. So I was not here. I wasn't here anyway. And when I got divorced, my dad helped me move back here. And at first, everybody just thought I was visiting until he announced that I was back.
So Dad had to announce it.
That's
what they have to do. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he announced that I was back, and at that moment I was embarrassed, but my village surrounded me with love.
That's good.
And I was able to heal because there was two parts for me. My mom wasn't here anymore. So grieving my mom and my marriage at the same time was a lot while trying to be a mommy.
Wow.
So to this little boy who doesn't understand why he's not waking up to his dad every day, so there was that part, but I thank God that I had a community of love. My friends never stopped friending me because I was divorced. I don't have that testimony. My family stood together. They stood with me. And while I don't come from a divorce background, we all know heartbreak. We all know heartache. So I was loved through it. I can't say it was a terrible experience. Now, I'm not going to lie and say I didn't have nights where being alone, when you get alone, you have to deal with yourself.
Come on.
Yes.
That's the tough part. But I was determined to heal.
Right.
And anybody that knows me, I'm going to find humor in everything.
Yeah.
So I've been laughing along the way, and I'm grateful that I had that outlet. I had people to help me, pick myself up, and they wouldn't let me live in shame.
Right.
Because I didn't have a failed marriage, I learned. I had a learning experience.
So you had
What I call it now is my dress rehearsal. I don't call it my first marriage.
Wow.
Because I plan to do it again.
And you should.
Yeah.
And crazy enough, because we all can relate to this area because we have children, and you said something that I could relate to. I remember when my children were going from one home to the next home. My firstborn was about 2. My secondborn wasn't 1 yet. She was crawling. That was my twin. Now she's 15. And she is my twin still. And she could not walk at the time. And I remember having to go from house to house. And because of what occurred, my parents were the ones who had to arrange to get them because of my story is so complex. So I can attest to understanding how these little youngins are confused. They don't know what in the world is going on. And then now every weekend having to come to daddy, then going back to mommy. And I remember the day I finally took my kids to the park. They were in middle school by that time. Now I have my firstborn's about to be in college. So I remember the day that my daughters were I remember sitting at Lauderhill Sports Park, and my daughter said to me, "Daddy, what happened between you and mommy?" And I just sat there, and the water just started coming up. I just sat there and I said, "Lord, tell me what to say."
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you want to do, you do not involve the children in the equation. The arguments, listen, you don't do it. So I remember literally saying to the girls, your mom loves you, your daddy loves you, and that's all you need to worry about. Just know daddy's not going anywhere, and I'm going to make sure until they tag my toe, which means I'm dead, you both will be straight, you both will be well taken care of. And I just make sure that I honor that. And speaking of which, and it brings me to the next question, because we're talking about children, and this is a very sensitive area because we have to understand the impact it truly has. What effect would you say, Jamaris, that, because you mentioned, how, your son, beautiful young man, talented too at a young age, how he had to adapt to the transition. And then it's not mommy and daddy going down the street to transport the child.
Right.
He lives in a whole other state.
Right.
How would you say the divorce had an effect on your child?
If I'm honest, I'm still trying to process how it's affecting him because he's so young. And he doesn't know his dad to be anything but amazing. I wanted to make sure that he knew his father was his father and will always be his father, and your dad loves you. Anything outside of that is none of your business.
Correct.
So he thinks his dad is, Superman. And now I can see where he wants more attention from, male, right? Specifically his dad.
Wow.
But it's not a pick up and go across the street kind of situation. So, being an empath, raising an empath, my son, he feels everything.
Wow.
I think that's been the toughest part, trying to protect him from what mommy feels. So he's great. He's doing, even in school, he's excelling.
Awesome.
He is very talented, and he picks up on everything. Anything he sets his mind to do, he can do. But just trying to channel and direct the emotional side of it, he hasn't figured it out yet. He's 6. So,
right.
He's still trying to understand everything. But I'm grateful that he hasn't acted out. He's not, throwing crayons or anything. But I think we're still trying to figure it out.
And it's a beautiful thing that, you know, you're growing with him. As you grow, you're growing with him. Because I remember my daughters at one point even started to feel like they were at fault. You know, when they grew up and they started to grow, they felt like they were at fault. And I had to explain to my daughters, no, you had nothing to do with it. It's an adult thing. It's an honest decision that we made. You know, there were so many trivial things that occurred, but it's very important to remind the children that, you know, it's not their fault, that both parties love each other, and do not criticize or down talk or speak negative or criticize the other party.
Right.
That is crucial,
right,
because that's going to develop the character of that child or children. Tiffany, if you can, you know, I know it's a very, very, very crucial area. What would you say how would you say it affected your children as far as the divorce?
Still finding out what affects them.
Wow.
Day by day, little by little. Our oldest son, he doesn't even acknowledge it. He just
denial.
Yeah, denial. He won't talk about it. He doesn't want to talk about it. Our two daughters, every once in a while they'll talk about it, but it's still day by day. They would just rather say mommy and daddy are two different places.
Wow. Because it's a mind thing.
Right.
And that's and people don't understand, especially in the black church or black community, oftentimes we don't believe in the importance of counseling or therapy. And I say this to say, would you say, or would you recommend therapy or counseling? Expound on what it is that you think, Jamaris, what you think should take place, especially after a crucial breakup. That means there's a whole life change that's taking place. Mommy and daddy are no longer in the same home. What would you say, you know, you recommend? Do you recommend group therapy, or do you recommend one-on-one counseling? What route would you go, especially considering you, Tiffany, saying that, you know, it's something you guys are going through right now? How are you guys coping otherwise? Do you guys go through counseling?
We're doing family counseling right now, and then I see my own personal counseling.
Say that one more time, because that's very important.
We're doing family, and I see someone else myself.
You know, I've had people tell me they don't need a counselor. Let me tell you something. I personally, after so many transitions, people who are strong needs counseling too. And group, you know, you do counseling with the family and for yourself as well. That's very important.
And he's going to be included in some of the sessions as well, because the most important thing, we're still a family. He will always be part of our family dynamic. When we have something, the children there, he's there, I'm there. We're still family. It's just
maturity.
A different type of structure of family, and that was important because during my mom and my dad's divorce, my mom never kept us from my dad. It was important. If we had Thanksgiving dinner, my mom was there, my dad was there, his new wife was there, their children was. We all came together, so I knew that that's the dynamic I want. I did not want a bad marriage. I did not want to be evil towards each other. We just discussed talking last night about our marriage. It almost is as if we heal by talking to each other.
Wow.
When I did this, how did this make you feel? The thing that was missing in our marriage. If I would have not let fear control my emotions, I could have said, listen, this is how my day is going. This is what I'm feeling. And when you do this, this makes me feel this way. And I learned that fear had dictated my whole life. Fear was the reason why I got married.
Wow.
So if I would have dealt with fear, false evidence appearing real, back then, this way, we would have been a blessing to so many other people. We still have to be a blessing, but now we have to be a blessing separately.
You just said something amazing. Because sometimes we don't realize the impact of a breakup, because there's a community that hurts too. You know, we don't want to be selfish about it. And when I ask these questions, I'm not asking it to criticize the church. No, I love church. I was born and brought up in church. But, you know, anything you love, you have to confront the issue. So I say this to say, you know, you mentioned something about counseling and so forth. Jamaris, what would you say, like, for you in that standpoint? Would you, you know, as far as your recovery, because you and I have spoken quite a few times, and I remember feeling so bad hearing your tone, because I don't know, she's a happy-go-lucky type person. She's really happy, makes jokes out of everything. And to hear the difference in your tone, it used to hurt me to hear you sound like you did. What would you say was, you know, what helped you as far as getting therapy? What did you do?
I haven't gone to therapy yet, if I'm honest, but I know I need it, so I'm not opposed to it. What's helped me get through this part of my story is telling my story.
Wow.
As an adult, I discovered a lot of things that had gone on through my childhood that nobody talked about. So being vulnerable, being open, seeing how my story heals others, heals me.
That's awesome.
Also being a singer, writing and singing helps me. I've been saying I hum as I heal. Sometimes I get songs and they are literally like hugs to my heart, and I can feel that God is manifesting my healing as I go along.
That's awesome.
And like I said, I'm not opposed to therapy. I know I need it, and I plan to take part, as well as Nugget, because there are some things that I know I can't, as his mom, I love him too much to understand, or I love him too much to, you know, get to, but I believe it will help him. So
that's awesome.
I'm for it.
And it's great to hear you both say this, because oftentimes we don't feel like we want people in our business, but it's always good to get someone neutral. If you don't believe in sharing it with your local pastor, but get someone who's of the faith. If not of the faith, somebody who's going to tell you the truth. And have a crew of people that will be there for you, that will honestly love you. And Tiffany said that earlier. She had people who loved her and her husband, so that way nobody was biased in whatever they said, or their opinions, or they're sharing their thoughts, or whatever have you. Listen, my sisters, ladies, I am so elated, and nothing could ever have filled my spirit like it did today than having you two here today to share what it is that you both have gone through and how you basically have overcome. And you said something about telling your story, what allowed you and how your story healed you by telling your story, because oftentimes we don't want people to know, but there are others that we can actually help. There are lives we can actually,
testimony.
Yeah, because people can get healed by your testimony. There are changes that can take place. So that's the reason why I was really inspired. Other than what was going on, I was really inspired to write this book, The Controversy of Divorce and Remarriage, because I wanted to tackle issues like today. I wanted to discuss topics that we brought forth, the content that we had today, and that was all derived from this book. And I can't stress enough the importance of having this book. I believe that it's a good starting point for anyone, a good manual for someone who's going through the process. But more importantly, get around some positive people. Get around people who are after your best interest, not just because they want to see you single again and live that life again, but people who want you to get spiritually equipped. Like Tiffany said, she was tired of deceiving herself and her spirit man. She knew that she wanted to please God. And this is deep. Yeah. And people will take that the wrong way, but there's nothing worse than living a lie. And I just want to thank you both. And if you both can, take a few minutes to encourage somebody, say what, your final thoughts. We'll start with you, Jamaris, if you'd like. What are your final thoughts, or what is it that you would like to share with somebody here, Qualified TV tonight?
I would just say that divorce is not the end. Take your time, process your feelings, be in prayer, but know that there's better for you. And you don't have to live in a miserable situation just for the church or for the opinions of others. Know that freedom is yours. It's available for you. Salvation isn't the only thing free. Freedom is waiting on you. So you do what you have to do. Consult God. Follow your heart. And whatever that means for you, just know that breakthrough, freedom, purpose may be on the other side of it. Absolutely. So pursue that. And know that it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Fear is a liar. I've been saying that too. Fear is a liar. Don't believe the lies. Don't be afraid.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jamaris. Tiffany?
I would just say, count up the cost. A lot of times we're taught in the black community and in the church community as young black adults, it's better to get married than to burn. Well, to me, I guess it's better to burn than to get married, because at least you're being honest about the state that you're in. I would like, from this conversation for the church to look at and say, okay, if you're burning, what can we do about that?
Come on.
Instead of putting you in something that really ain't gonna help your burning. Because if it's lust, if it's pride, if whatever it is that you're dealing with, let's deal with this first.
Right.
And then let's prepare you for
That's
marriage.
awesome. That's awesome.
Marriage, again, is supposed to represent Christ.
Right.
Christ is coming back for a bride. We are all gonna be his brides.
Right.
And he's coming back for us. So if we're supposed to be if marriage is supposed to be representing Christ, marriage is really not about a male and a female. It's spiritual. We need to get back to that point.
Right.
And there was times when you would see a pastor and his wife and be like, oh my gosh, I want that. They just looked like they were so one.
Right.
Even if they wasn't, but you strived for that oneness.
There's something to imitate.
Right, you don't see that as much now. The pastor wife want to hang out with everybody. Nobody wants to set apart. Nobody wants to be an example of what a marriage should look like in the body of Christ.
Wow.
We shouldn't emulate the stars' marriage. We should have people that we can call, hey, I'm going through this. Can you sit down and talk to me about
Absolutely.
this? Can you share your heart? How did y'all get over this? And be honest with one another. That's the first thing. We need to be honest with one another. And I think that would help many more marriages. So at first, deal with whatever is in you that needs to be dealt with before you say I do to another person.
Wow.
Because like she said, their red flags become your red flags.
Right.
You interchange that stuff. Jesus died on the cross for us to take our sins. So he interchanged with us. He became one with us.
Very good.
So if he became one with us in death and we become one with each other in marriage, we exchange with each other.
Very good.
So I would say make sure you're exchanging with the right person.
That's awesome. Remember, you're taking that person's baggage, their student loans, you're taking everything. I always tell people do a background check all the time. And if anyone remembers, I even taught what you mentioned, Tiffany, years ago about it's better to marry than to burn. That was Paul basically saying marriage is just that deep. Yeah. So it's better that you just stay away from sin altogether and fix you. Fix yourself, fix your character, fix your mindset, get it all together. But listen, I can't stress enough how elated I am and how great this show has been this wonderful Thursday evening. Listen, don't just watch it tonight, but tune in again because you may have missed something. These two wonderful women, you know, we'll put their information up so you can get in touch with them. But more importantly, we want to thank you both for being on Qualified TV. And we want to thank you all for watching Qualified TV. And remember, no matter where you are, what you've been through, what they said about you, you're still qualified to win. Peace.
Peace.
Good day to all of my qualifiers, my family, my friends. I want to take this moment to thank you all for watching this podcast. We have more to come every Thursday at 6 p.m. Expect to get some new material, new content that we will be sharing. We'll be covering all types, all sorts of topics. Don't miss out. Listen, follow us, subscribe. Do all that you got to do. Subscribe to our YouTube page. What are you waiting for? Let's get it done. Let's do this together. Share, comment, provide all the insight that you have. Let us share and learn from each other respectfully and with love. One more thing. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. I am drg.fab. Also on Facebook, Dr. George Fabre. And don't forget to like our page. And also, if you want this merchandise, you want all these apparel merchandise and all of the things that we have to offer, our book, The Controversy of Divorce and Remarriage, don't forget to go to drgeorgefabre.com. Again, drgeorgefabre.com. I appreciate and love all of you all. See you next week, 6 p.m.